It was just an old cardboard box in a Berlin archive. Dusty. Forgotten. But inside, a black and white photo that would change everything. A girl. No more than 18. Eyes hollow, but defiant. A prisoner's uniform. And scrawled on the back, in faint pencil, Marie, France, 1943. That single image, buried for decades, cracked open a story no one was supposed to remember. A story not of soldiers, but of silence, stolen youth, and survival behind barbed wire. Who was she? How did she end up there? And why had her face haunted a historian for years before the photo was even found? What you're about to hear isn't fiction. It's real. It's raw. And it will stay with you long after the final frame. Hit like, subscribe, and let's go. Before the war swallowed everything, Marie lived in a quiet village near Lyon. The year was 1942. Her days were simple: morning walks to the bakery, afternoons helping her mother mend clothes, and evenings listening to the radio with her younger brother. She loved sunflowers and wrote poems in the margins of old newspapers. The world, though fractured by distant headlines, still felt intact in her corner of France. She dreamed of Paris, of becoming a teacher, of someday dancing in a white dress under lanterns. But the streets had grown quieter lately. Whispers passed faster than trains, about raids, about neighbors vanishing overnight. One morning, Marie noticed her father didn't bring home bread. That evening, the radio fell silent. Something had shifted. The air felt thinner. The ground beneath her dreams had begun to tremble. It happened on a foggy Tuesday, just before dawn. Marie was returning from the well when she saw them, two black trucks parked near the church. Foreign voices. Sharp, clipped German. She froze behind a wall, clutching her water jug, watching as men in uniforms moved door to door with lists in hand. No sirens. No shouting. Just the cold precision of names being read and lives being uprooted. By noon, the Deschamps family was gone. Marie's mother locked their shutters and whispered, "Don't answer the door." That night, Marie couldn't sleep. The village was still, too still, like a breath held too long. And in the silence, she noticed something that chilled her: her name had been carved into the underside of their table. Not by her. Not by anyone she knew. A message? A warning? Or a mistake? The next morning, the trucks came back, but this time, they stopped at her door. They didn't knock. They ordered. Two soldiers, emotionless, read from a paper Marie couldn't see. Her mother argued in whispers, desperate, trembling, but it was useless. Marie had been selected for labor. No explanation. No goodbye. By sunset, she sat among strangers in the back of a rattling truck, the village shrinking behind her like a memory already fading. The road twisted endlessly. Trees blurred. One girl cried until her voice cracked. Another clutched a doll with no arms. And Marie, she watched the sky, wondering if anyone knew she was gone. At the next stop, a guard handed her a number, not a name. She noticed the ink on her hand was still fresh, smudged slightly, as if hastily written. It wasn't just her. All of them had identical marks. Identical fates. Somewhere far ahead, a factory chimney pierced the clouds. And a faint smell, like burnt metal and soap, drifted through the cold evening air. They arrived at night. Floodlights cut the dark like knives, and the gate clanged shut behind them. It wasn't a factory, it was something else. Barbed wire. Watchtowers. Rows of barracks that smelled of rot and sorrow. Ravensbrück. A name no one spoke aloud. Women in striped uniforms moved silently, eyes hollow, steps mechanical. Marie was assigned to Barrack 12. Her bunkmate, a Polish woman named Zofia, looked at her with pity, not curiosity. That first night, Marie couldn't sleep. She noticed something odd. Zofia never removed her scarf, even in the heat. When Marie asked why, Zofia simply handed her a folded paper hidden in the straw mattress. It was part of a map, hand-drawn lines leading somewhere beyond the fences. "You'll need this," Zofia whispered. "Soon." That moment cracked everything open. This place, it wasn't meant to be survived. And someone, somewhere inside, was planning to escape. By the third week, the rhythm of the camp was carved into her skin. Wake up. March. Work. Endure. But beneath the surface, Marie began to see cracks, and what lay beneath them horrified her. The labor was not for rebuilding. It was destruction. Women stitched uniforms from blood-stained fabric. Others tested strange creams that left burns on their arms. One girl never came back from the infirmary. Zofia whispered that she'd been taken for experiments. That word echoed inside Marie like a scream she couldn't let out. One evening, while sorting scraps near the fence, Marie found a buried bundle, a torn photo of a child, a letter in broken French, and a woman's wedding ring. Hidden like secrets no one dared carry. These weren't random prisoners, they were mothers, daughters, teachers, singers. Each had a life stolen and buried behind electric wires. Marie clenched the ring in her fist. This wasn't survival anymore. It was witnessing. And now, she could no longer pretend not to see. Winter came early that year. The cold wrapped the camp like a second prison, biting through skin and silence alike. One morning, names were called, a transfer list, the guard said. But everyone knew. Those sent never returned. Zofia's name was on it. Marie's wasn't. That night, Zofia handed her the full map, drawn in pieces over months by women now gone. "There's a drain under the laundry shed," she whispered, eyes full of urgency and sorrow. "Tonight, or never." But as Marie crept toward the shed, map hidden under her blouse, she was caught, not by a guard, but by a woman in black. Stern. Cold. German, but with perfect French. "You're smarter than the others," she said softly. "Don't waste it." She held Marie's drawing, torn in half. The escape route was compromised. Every option was now a trap. Marie stood frozen in the snow, trembling not from the cold, but from the decision she had to make. Run, betray, or disappear. What would you do? Zofia. Marie. Marie. Many years later, in a quiet museum in Lyon, a photograph was placed behind glass. A girl in a striped uniform. Her eyes, still defiant. Her name, once nearly erased, now printed clearly, Marie Dufour. She never returned to the village. She never spoke publicly about the camp. But she taught. She wrote. And every year, on the same day, she lit a candle for the women who didn't make it out. The ring she had hidden, Zofia's, now rests beside the photo, a silent witness to what they endured, and what they carried home in silence. And then, there was the box. Found decades later in Berlin. With that photo. The same one. But who placed it there? And why now? Maybe it was meant for us. To remember. To ask. To never forget. So now I ask you, if her story had been yours, would anyone have found your photo? Hit like, subscribe, and tell us in the comments, what would you have done?